What is up, guys? I figured I would make some YouTube videos and talk about more about what I am up to in terms of my physique. There is another video, I have not put it out yet, that explains basically why I'm not competing in bodybuilding for the time being. Not to say I won't ever come back, but you'll learn more about that when that video does come out, whenever I decide to get it up. Now, what I am going to talk about today is I am prepping, but not necessarily for a show. I am following the lifestyle, and I'm looking down at my phone here because I'm trying to find my notes for exactly what I am doing. So let's go over to the self-coaching folder. I am self-coaching right now. 8/23/2025, that's today. It's Saturday, and I do my check-ins on Saturday morning. That way I can wake up at a decent hour, at least get 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep in a little bit, and I'm not getting up super early, and I can have a consistent look each and every week. So Saturday morning is when I do my check-in. And last week my weight was 196.8, and this week I weighed in today at 195.4. So I lost 1.4 pounds in the last week, which is pretty good. Now, I did make some changes and some increases to things last week. I was doing 30 minutes of cardio 4 times a week. I brought that up to 45 minutes 4 times a week now. That's going to stay consistent. So 45 minutes 4 times a week for cardio. And then separate from my cardio, I'm doing 12,000 steps a day. So I do 12,000 steps every single day. And then on some of those days, I'm doing a 45-minute cardio session on top. Now, I don't count that cardio session as a part of my step count. I keep that separate, and how I do that is I don't wear an Apple Watch or anything like that while I'm on the treadmill. I just set the phone down, I'll watch a YouTube video, I'll listen to a podcast, whatever it is. That way my phone isn't acting like a pedometer and picking up my cardio steps as steps. Steps for me are just some background activity to keep a baseline. Okay, so steps and cardio, we got that covered. Next, we're gonna go into pretty much fat burners, the cycle, the diet, all that type of stuff. So fat burners, 10 milligrams of yohimbine. I put daily. I sometimes take it daily, I sometimes don't take it. Sometimes I just forget. But if I'm doing cardio, I'm definitely taking it that day. So at least 4 to probably 5 times a week, I'm taking yohimbine, 10 milligrams. I started clenbuterol recently in the last few days, just like 2 or 3 days ago actually, at 40 micrograms of clen, and that seems to be doing the job. And then I also added in 25 micrograms of T3. Now, I'm adding in the lipolytics because, one, I would rather kind of do a mixture of cardio, lipolytics, and versus relying on purely output to create fat loss. I don't have enough time in the day to necessarily do more cardio or steps, so that's why the lipolytics are in. I can always pull food, but I'm trying to not just like shred down. I have another 12 weeks really till I have to be like shredded. So you'll see my food is still fairly decently high, and we'll get into that in just a second. So fat burners are clen, yohimbine, T3. It's not really a fat burner. T3 is there just to keep a baseline metabolism. That's all that is. It's a replacement dosage. Okay, now moving on into PEDs. I am on 400 milligrams of testosterone enanthate per week, 350 milligrams of masteron. It's a propionate enanthate blend that I'm taking. And then I was taking 120 milligrams of Tren E, which I'm dropping down to 60 milligrams of Tren E. Not because I was getting side effects or anything like that. I'm actually really tolerating that very well. However, I don't necessarily need a lot of Tren. I kind of want to see how little Tren I can get away with and still get results from. And then the other side of that too is I was thinking about adding in an oral like Anavar and riding that for 8 something weeks. I decided, you know what, I don't really necessarily need an oral because, one, a lot of the time oral steroids will just kind of create this cosmetic effect. They do some things for retaining muscle. It's an anabolic, right? So it's going to help retain muscle. It's going to have some other properties like strength and things like that too. But I really feel like 60 milligrams of Tren enanthate per week or 25 to 50 milligrams of Anavar a day. I think the health ramifications would be more damaging on 25 to 50 milligrams of Anavar than it would be in terms of 60 milligrams of Tren. So we're gonna hold off on the Anabar, but I do have that planned, and that will be towards the end when I need that like drier, harder look, which I don't necessarily need right now because I still have too high of body fat to really see the effects of that. Side note, some people will say like, oh, well, you shouldn't use Masteron until you're like, sub 10%. No, Masteron has benefits, and it's so benign that even if you're like 15% Masteron, it's not going to make you like hard and grainy, but it's going to regulate and modulate estrogen, not to where it will probably won't lower your estrogen. I don't see Masteron working like that on blood work, but it will work like a SERM, like a Nolvadex or something like that, to where it's going to not lower estrogen like an AI, but it's going to bind to estrogen receptors and block their activity in those receptors. Okay, moving on. I'm also taking some Arimidex, 0.3 milligrams Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's what's helping control my estrogen. On 400 test, a little bit of Arimidex is going to go a long way, and I'm not too worried about the impacts of Arimidex on like lipids and things like that. Another side note, but like the AIs are not something to really be scared of. They're not going to crush your HDL. What crushes your HDL and your lipid panel is low estrogen. So if like you're burying your estrogen with aromatase inhibitors, then yes, I can see them being damaging. But in the event that they're keeping you in range, I don't believe that they are harmful. But don't take my word on that. Go do your research. Okay, now getting into like some other things like peptides and things like that. So I am taking retatrutide. I'm taking 4 milligrams per week. I started on 1.5 milligrams, went up to 3 after about 3 weeks, rode 3 for about 2 or 3 weeks, and now I've recently jumped up to 4. And so I started this cut around 207, 205, 207. So I'm down about 10, 12 pounds, give or take, from the start. And the retatrutide is there for one, appetite control. I really do notice that the food noise is like pretty much, I wouldn't say non-existent, but it's very, very minimal. And like I said, I am still eating quite a bit of food. But it really does help to stay focused and locked in and just get those meals in versus like, oh, I can't wait to have some pancakes. But also I'm still fairly far out. So we'll see how that really starts to shine when I'm closer to like 6 weeks out. But I do also like the nutrient partitioning effects of it and just all the other benefits, the fat burning component to it, metabolic rate increase. Retatrutide is going in and staying in. So lastly, for peptides, I am taking 6 IUs of HGH. I usually take this every day. I might miss a day here and there, but for the most part, 6 IUs before bed every day. And then another peptide I do throw in from time to time is GHKCU copper, just for like skin, joints, hair, those types of things. I do throw in melanotan every once in a while as well, just to maintain a good tan. And there is some appetite suppressing effects from melanotan. There's also some libido boosting effects from melanotan. So it's just a good peptide to have in. Now, getting into the diet, so 82 days out. So I've made some changes recently with my diet, and I'm going to talk further about those in just a moment. So starting off with meal 1, meal 2. I'm not even going to go into each meal. Like, I'm just going to throw it up on the screen. This is what the diet looks like right now, guys. So, but I will talk about the changes that I've made recently to the diet and my theories and logic behind them. So you'll see I have carbs in every single meal, and I'm this week switching to just a base diet each day. Even on my rest days, I'm going to have this. And what I was doing before was I had a bit more fats in the diet. I had oatmeal in, and there was some trace fats in there. I was doing higher amounts of almond butter, and I brought them all down to 10 grams. So I've reduced, what I've done recently is I've reduced some of the fats in my diet. So pulled down some calories from the fats, but then I replaced those same calories from carbohydrates. So the change that I made to diet this week is no change in terms of calories, but I manipulated the macros to where I have more carbs, less fats. The reason why I'm doing that is because I have all these things that are pushing better nutrient partitioning. There's trenin, there's retatrutide, testosterone and masteron are going to have some effects on, glucose uptake and things like that as well. So my body is ready to use carbohydrates. Dietary fats don't need to be super high. I don't need to make hormones from them. I do take fish oil, and I do, have some fats in the diet, but I don't need like 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 grams of fat. As a natural athlete, they might, but someone who's enhanced, you're making your own hormones, so it's not like something you need to pay much attention to. You could pretty much almost go like minimal and just trace fats and totally be fine, as long as you have your essential fatty acids. That's really all you need. And no one's deficient in fat. You have fat on your body, you're not deficient in it. So that's my rationale behind the lower fats but higher carbs. So we'll see how this plays out over the next week. If I continue to like drop, like that's awesome, man, because really what the macros total out to is 271 protein, 338 carbs. That's a good amount of carbs. And then 40 grams of fat, which totals around 2,890 calories. So either way, having already lost 10 pounds, I have plenty of room to manipulate this further, lower calories from the diet to where I can see quite a bit of fat loss from this. That's really everything, guys. Just like want to make a small updates here and talk about what has been going on. So this is for not a contest prep, but I am locked into a date and timeline to be not stage lean, but shredded photo shoot vacation lean. And having this trip on the calendar, it keeps me with a goal in mind and keeps me focused. So stay tuned for more updates, guys. I will try to make these hopefully every single week. I just gotta get out the camera and start filming more. But other than that, I will be here. Hit the subscribe button, check out my other videos, check out other things, follow my Instagram, TikTok, whatever, Facebook, add me, comment, share with someone. That's all I got, guys. Okay, peace.